Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me here for our March Yin practice. So March, according to yoga, is the Kapha time of year. So as we move from winter into spring, we're going from our Vata season, cold, dry, into our Kapha season, which can be wet and chilly, but not nearly as cold. Obviously, I don't need to tell you this. You've experienced the seasons before. But in terms of these qualities and energetics, we can change our yoga practice to support our own needs. And before we get into our specific yoga, let's talk about other things that we might like to complement this practice. So we sometimes have what's called Vata driving Kapha. So if we've had cold, dark, dry weather for months now, we might be feeling really depleted, sluggish. We just want to eat comfort food, take a nap, or get up and go, got up and left. We want to lie around all day. It's not feeling very inspiring. And then I think we layer on top of it this pressure where we kind of beat ourselves up because we look out and it's warmer and the sun is out. Maybe we hear the birds chirping and then we think, what's wrong with me? I should have all this energy. But we're starting from this sort of two steps back place where we are maybe feeling empty, depleted, flattened, dull. So what are some things we can do to nurture ourselves at this time of year? As soon as we see fresh produce in the stores, pick it up. As much as we can, when things start to come in from local greenhouses, scoop it up. Because maybe if we think about our diet over the past couple months, it's been really like carb heavy, meat heavy, and we know that we get energy from all sorts of wonderful nutrients that we find in our plants. I've been eating, in terms of comfort food, I'm trying to go for like soups and casseroles. I made a big pot of chili, stuff to like really feed high nutrient level instead of, I know I would really just love to eat a bowl of noodles with rice and butter on it, but I'm doing my best because I know one of my favorite sayings, what I crave will not satisfy me. So let's try to boost our energy with high nutrient foods. And if we want that hug from the inside, yes, we can go for all of our warm and wonderful stews, soups, chilies, oats, quinoa, all those lovely mixed foods, throwing in whatever kind of produce we can get at this time of year. Frozen is okay, tinned is okay. Let's just focus on feeding ourselves as much as we can. The other thing that sometimes happens, because turmeric is having this real time in the sun, is that we might feel dried out from some of the stuff that we're doing that we don't even realize is drying. So turmeric has a drying quality in the body. So if you've been noticing like sinuses really dry, joints feeling like really creaky, and you're one of these people who has turmeric every day, something maybe more invigorating like ginger might help sort of give you a little bit of a boost, build a little internal fire. Spirulina is another one, or any of these blue-green algae that can be drying. So if you're feeling too dry, maybe stop for a while. We can replace it with honey, lemon, ginger tea. Licorice tea is my personal favorite. I know some people think licorice is gross. It's a little bit of an acquired taste. Maybe you want to go for a cup of soup broth or anything else that is more lubricating. Now, as we get more into the Kapha season and we're feeling maybe a little bit soggy, as soon as stuff starts to grow outside and melt and there's more moisture, then yeah, we can start to add our turmeric and spirulina back in to kind of dry us up. This is often the time of year when people get the neti pot out and really lean into that to kind of open stuff up. Sometimes Ayurveda, the sister science of yoga, is referred to as the balance of opposites. So if we're feeling dry, we bring in that opposite energy of moisture. I've got my humidifier running full blast overnight. And something I learned recently that might also be drying your home out, as it gets warmer outside and we want to bring this invigorating fresh air in, when we open the windows, actually the warm air rushes out, and since we know that warm air holds more moisture than cold air, the moisture leaves with it and then is replaced by cold, dry air. So if you like that feeling of freshness and cool air coming in, but then you notice you're feeling like really dry. Somebody I know always has the window open a crack, and I was at her house recently and I could just feel like my lips drying out, my skin drying out as all the moisture is like sucked out the window. Leave the window open for a while, and then when we close it, that's the perfect time to put a pot of soup on, because the boiling water will then rehydrate the air. Or we could just boil water and rehydrate the air. It's all good. Always have options. Okay, our final thought for today in terms of essential oils is that we might like something for our yin practice that feels kind of soothing without being flattening. So avoiding anything that's too heavy, like vetiver might be kind of pinning us down a little bit too much. So we might want to pair that with something more uplifting, like lemon, lemongrass, cedar, or any fir blends I like at this time of year. But my personal favorite that I've chosen for today is, often you can buy a blend that's like a spiced vanilla latte, or there's one that's a spiced chai, and it's got all sorts of warming essential oils in it: cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and then that little bit of vanilla I feel is like a hug through our nasal passages, a hug emotionally, which is so often what we're looking for in our essential oils, is an emotional shift. So if we are feeling like kind of weighed down, some essential oil that makes us feel supported, loved, and held up, those are the qualities of Kapha that we are bringing in to our practice today. Okay, enough chit chat from me. We're going to get into our physical practice. It will be a restorative yin practice. So we're just going to be kind of flopping around on our mats. Comfort is the name of the game. We'll limber up just a little bit, but we definitely need some sort of blanket, mat, towel to put under our bodies to hold us in these positions. You might like a rolled up yoga mat or a couple of blocks. If you have yoga bolsters, of course, grab them, bring them out. We'll use them for our practice here today. If you don't have anything, you can use a pillow, a towel, whatever you've got, we'll make it work. Anything to kind of hold us up from below. Okay. We're gonna do a little movement, a bunch of yin stretches, and then a long rest at the end. You may like to use this a little bit more after we do our daylight savings shift to just get into that rest side of things. Okay, when you're ready, grab a sip of your tea, and we're gonna come and start actually in a child's pose for today. And we might like some propping in our child's pose, so I'm gonna start with that. With more support than usual for child's pose. So I've got something behind the knees and then something to catch me under my body. So I should feel, and for you as well, that I'm held enough to the point that I can go, all right, like my yoga pose is kind of hugging me. So I like more height underneath my chest. And we might need to adjust them while we are here. So if I notice like, oh, kind of nothing is holding me under my head, maybe I want to move this a little further up, further down. We could do one arm up, one arm down. That's often a favorite. One shoulder might be a little cranky, or it's easier to breathe if we turn the head. So we'll stay here for a couple minutes on this side. Settling in, maybe we're feeling the body loosening up. Might take a little while if we're feeling particularly tight or cranky, but ideally we're meeting the body where it already is. So if we've been cold and kind of hunched over through the winter, we don't want to overdo it for our bodies by just doing intense heart openers. We can come into a more cozy, neutral position. Hold, allow the muscles of the back to release, allowing the back of the hips and our glutes to release. And ideally, after a few minutes of this,
we'll be ready to move and limber up even more. So I invite us each to come into a full breath, feeling expansion of the breath into the underarms, side of the ribs, probably feeling the breath expanding more in the back than usual, less in the front, obviously, because of this body position. While we hold, we might feel the need to shift, adjust, move our props, get more props, that's okay. There's sort of an evolution while we hold these poses, that something needs to shift or change. And then when we're ready, we'll move on to the other side. We might, for the sake of balance, like to do one arm up, one arm down, if you were following me. Or maybe this side feels different, we want to put the arms in a different spot. And I will turn my head the opposite direction and leave you here for a couple minutes to focus on your breathing. Begin to move out of this pose. Remove our props for a moment here. And it'll give us the option to limber up in cat and cow. We might like to do this in a seated variation or a more typical cat and cow on all fours. I know sometimes our knees aren't super happy being on the mat, so feel free to sit, move, or stand, however we're comfortable. And I think for today, I will do a more conventional cat and cow on all fours. So if we like all fours for today, we're spreading our fingers wide, pressing our body weight into our fingertips and the top of the feet, all knuckles pressing down, and then when we're ready, moving our spine through a comfortable range of motion, making our spines like a rainbow as we breathe out, and then making our spines like the letter U as we breathe in. And this breath practice, of course, might not be perfect. Sometimes I like to add the inhale to both poses, so that might feel a bit more springy, a bit more Kapha energy, holding cow and inhaling. Exhaling to transition, so it's a nice, smooth, slow transition. And then inhaling when we're holding cat to stretch the back of the body. I find that one is particularly nice if you've been really working your back muscles through any kind of like traditional back exercises, or even just sitting at a computer, but doing a good posture can pull those muscles back, and then they need a little stretch to get a nice break going. And for today, let's pause on cow. We'll hold here a little longer, loosening up the front line of the body. And if we are seated, or maybe we want to move to a seated position, we can bring our arms to T to increase the stretch along the chest and the front of the body here. Let's do one more breath in and out. And we might feel inspired to limber up in some other kind of way while we're here. Moving the head or neck, turning to look over one shoulder and then the other, and then we can release. Oh. Okay, let's go ahead. We're going to come and lie on our stomachs. I will start with the smallest range of motion first, and then gradually give us a greater range of motion. So we will be lying on our bellies. If that is not for you today, there are other ways that you can modify this, even just standing up and then placing the hands on a wall to get some length through the front line of the body. That's probably the most accessible variation. We could be kneeling, doing the same kind of thing, lengthening out the front of the body. If we are okay with lying on our bellies, we will be placing a bolster along like where the ribs meet in the front, and you might like it further forward, further back, depending on your body, your own alignment. And we're gonna lower down so that the blanket is sort of, top of belly area to support us, and you might like to be a little further up or down on the body, like I said. And we'll begin with sleeping crocodiles. This is the smallest range of motion. We might like a block underneath the head. And that's it. Essentially, we are lying on our stomachs in a supported position. Might like the arms forward. And once we've settled in here, if we feel like we would like a greater range of motion, we simply prop ourselves up higher. So we might like to come up on our elbows, our forearms. We might like more propping. I personally find the block underneath the ribs, it's quite hard. It's not the most comfortable thing. Some people really like it. We might like a higher prop in terms of a rolled up yoga mat, something like that. And then if our knees are uncomfortable, we can actually have the option just to bend them, I find is the easiest. We can prop under the ankles, it's just kind of tough to get them in the right spot, and then to be able to lower ourselves down takes a lot of configuration. Easier just to bend the knees and kind of let our legs hang out, in my humble opinion. But of course, make it comfortable for you. Okay, we'll hang out here for a few more rounds of breath, letting gravity take over and do the work. We may be noticing feelings of restriction with our inhale. It's a pretty large range of motion for some of us, especially if we've been curled up into a little ball all winter. And then I'll give us the option to take away our props and just lie on the belly and let the cheek rest, or we can hold here a little longer. So this one, for whatever reason, some people just love back bending. They love this position. They want to hold it for a long time. They want to come up really high. They might like to take the feet wide as well. So if that is you, please stay a little longer. If that is not you, then we can move the props away and let one cheek rest. And we may even like to move up higher. We can do a little bit of a military crawl to get the propping underneath our bellies or underneath our hip bones, to let the back round in the opposite direction. So wherever we are, let's find a place that feels beneficial and comfortable. We'll hang out here for just another few rounds of breath. We'll come on out, let's take stock of how we're feeling. We'll come into a comfortable resting position, whatever that means for you, maybe child's, maybe downward facing dog, maybe a seated position, and take as long as you like resetting, shaking anything off that needs to be kind of fidgeted or moved about. And I'll set us up for a kneeling lunge. Again, another one that's not always the top most comfortable pose because of our knees, but there is a lot of benefit to it. So we can take propping underneath the knee, and then I'll use the blocks underneath the hands. So we'll take 1 foot forward. In this case, I'm going to start with my right foot forward between the blocks and then my hands on the blocks. And we'll just be kind of easy breezy here, letting gravity do the work. Kind of flopping out. And if this pose is in no way, shape, or form going to happen for you today, we can get into the same kind of body position, actually just lying on our backs. Same idea, knee coming toward the chest. So if you do not like kneeling lunge at all, we're going to come and lie on our backs in a second, so we'll join you. All right, so whatever we're doing, lunging or knee to chest, we've got our right leg pulled in, and the front of the left hip is stretching. So I'll stay up here with us for a moment more, getting as comfortable as we can in our kneeling lunge. Some of us like to come really low. I personally find that quite uncomfortable. I like to come up much higher, and that feels good. Some of us might like our front foot and our back knee to be really close together, and then some people like a much deeper spread. We all have different body proportions. The length of the bone of the shin to the bone of the thigh are in different proportion. It's all good. There's no one perfect pose, so we can listen to our bodies and respond in a way that seems to be working for us today. Okay, see if we can take one more full breath in and out. If we're lying on our backs, we simply release and switch to hugging in the left leg. And if we're up here in our lunge, usually we step back through a variation of child's pose. Sometimes it can be really tough to get that front leg back. We have to take it out and around. We could choose downward facing dog, and then when we are ready for the other side, we're taking the left foot forward and through. If you like the mat, we can use the mat. If we like elbows down, we can use elbows down. Otherwise, maybe coming up higher, and our own body can always be a prop, right? So we can have our hands on our thighs, we can have hands on the chair, on a wall, whatever's going on in your own space at home. Some people like to use a broomstick as well. Broomsticks feature in some of my classes, and they're so versatile because they can provide support, increase our range of motion, and they're light and easy to move around and sneak out of the way, and probably most of us have one in our own homes. So I know this isn't everybody's favorite, but I like to work it into my classes. I like to give all these different options because having a good split between our front and back leg is really important for comfort, longevity. The muscles of our diaphragm connects into the muscles of the hip so that we can breathe more easily if our hips are looser. And especially as we're coming out of winter and into spring, walking is a fantastic way to maybe gain some of our health that we've lost over the winter. Great for longevity, great just even to feel nice. So I hope there is a variation for all of us that works. Okay, we're all going to make our way onto our back. So if you're there already, maybe hugging both knees into chest. If we're not there already, we're going to move stuff out of the way, and we will use one more prop. So if you're on your back, you might like a little bit more propping for this next one. I will lead us through a relaxation practice. If you have no props, you can just stay as you are. If we have props, there is a heart opener with a butterfly leg that can be quite Nice. So we ideally will use some propping underneath the legs and then underneath the back. So we can use our folded blanket towel, whatever we have, directly underneath the spine. And then as our legs fall open into butterfly, something to catch them is nice. So if I had no props, I would just leave my legs hanging out in the air and lie down flat on my back. Since I do have props, they're gonna pull me back from my fullest range of motion, which helps the muscles to release more than they otherwise would. Because when we're in a full range of motion, our muscles are still taut. So we can picture like a rope pulled taut. But if we pull it back from the fullest range of motion, it goes slack a little bit and increases the relaxation sensation. We might like higher, lower, whatever. I hope you get the idea by now. We make our props work for us. There is no perfect recipe. And then once we're there, we can think about it. Is this working for me? Do I need to do another position? Maybe only one leg at a time, putting our legs in tree pose instead of butterfly. That can feel quite open for the hips. Maybe one at a time is happier. Our arms can come to T as we did earlier. Maybe cactus arms, or just alongside our bodies. So the purpose of this pose is to give us opening through the front of the body after a winter of curling into a little ball under a pile of blankets in an effort to stay warm. If we're feeling good, we're feeling supported, you are in the perfect place, and I will lead us through a guided meditation. And anytime we come into our final relaxation, there may be some fidgets we would like to let out. Maybe moving the head side to side, shaking the hands off. Maybe drawing the shoulder blades down the back. Lifting the chin and then tucking the chin to lengthen the back of the neck. And then we often recommend sighing at the end of our yoga class, right? So we can do a full breath in, nose or mouth. Full exhale from the mouth. Begin with the physical body here. If we're comfortable, eyes are probably already closed, and it may increase relaxation to do movements of the eyes. So we can gently let the eyes sweep side to side behind our closed eyelids, or we may take the eyes in a circle one direction and then the other. As with any yoga practice, this one may not be a good fit for you. For some of us, it feels fantastic. And then for some of us, it may cause headache, a feeling of pressure in the eyes, dizziness. And I would say if you're one of those people that tends to be very intense, really dial it back with this one. Very gentle movements of the eyes. Instead of moving them to 100% range of motion, maybe only 50. So we can do a little sweep either side to side or clockwise and counterclockwise. If it feels good, feel free to keep doing those movements a few more times and then resting as we're ready. Taking a moment to mentally let ourselves know that it's time to experience rest, relaxation, and renewal. Making ourselves as comfortable as possible, and this may mean choosing an entirely different pose for our final relaxation. taking a moment in our own way to remind ourselves of the value of relaxation. Letting our experience be natural and effortless. Needless distractions will be easy to handle. And at any point, adding our own reminders as needed. Now is my time for relaxation. When I rest, it gives me a sense of renewal. Rest equals zest. Any other words that we like. And that'll give us time here to count 10 rounds of breath, counting backwards. So we're inhaling 10, exhaling 10, inhaling 9, exhaling 9, and so on until we reach 0. If I give you too much time, feel free to start again at 10. And if I don't give you enough time, it doesn't matter. The numbers don't hold any importance. It's just something to focus our minds. Let's see if we can make these last few rounds slower, deeper, smoother. Easy does it. Maybe we notice the sounds of our own breathing, sounds nearby, blending with faraway sounds. Letting these noises fade into the background, we'll bring our awareness to our bodies, sending our ability to sense areas of the body in a trip around the body. Mentally finding the right hand, the right arm, the right shoulder, right side of the waist, right leg, sole of the foot, top of the foot, the entire right side of the body, mentally finding the left hand, left arm, left shoulder, left side of the waist,
left leg, ankle, sole of the foot, top of the foot, the entire left side of the body, now noticing the back of the body, all parts of the body, pressing down, resting down, feeling supported beneath you. Noticing the back of the right hand, the back of the left hand, the back of the right arm, the back of the left arm. Right shoulder blade, left shoulder blade, right side of the back, left side of the back, the back of the right leg and glute, the back of the left leg and glute, the right heel, the left heel, noticing the front of the body, the front of the legs, the belly, the chest, the collarbones, throat, the face, head. Spreading from the top of the head all the way to the tips of the toes. Every exhale, feeling that we can release. Every inhale, drawing in calm, alert energy. Allowing the breath to feel lighter, more enlivened. And noticing if it feels heavy, that's okay too. Allowing ourselves to be totally relaxed yet fully awake. Sensing the entire body, the whole self, all at once. Sensing the space around the body. Sensing our bodies in our current environment. We may stay here and continue resting, or we may begin to move and wake ourselves. But before we do, let's draw our energy together. No need to go anywhere or do anything. We may simply like to cross hands over heart. Just acknowledging that you have made this time for yourself to commit to your own well-being. And the gift of our Kapha season is endurance and consistency. So hats off to you for being here today. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with me. And from my light to yours, namaste.